Damia Sage of Stone is a really expensive Sultai commander and also quite old school. She reads the following: skip your draw step. That's bad. But at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have fewer than 7 cards in your hand, draw cards equal to the difference. That means that if you have 0 cards in the beginning of your turn, you will draw 7 cards. That means that Damia Sage of Stone has the potential of turning into a turns commander. Now her game plan is actually quite straightforward. Ramp Damia into play as fast as humanly possible, reach that 7 mana and sacrifice your hand size. You will do this with 1-cost dorks like Bird of Paradise, ritual artifacts like Mana Crypt, but also Lion's Eye Diamond, which will basically become a Black Lotus that will discard your hand, which is perfect because now we're down to 0 cards in our hand and we will be drawing 7 cards in our upkeep. Let's actually take a look at all the 1-cost card dorks. We have Fyndhorn Elf, Bird of Paradise, Elves of Deep Shadow, and Elvish Mystic. We have Boreal Druid, Llanowar Elf, Deathrite Shaman, and Arbor Elf. 8 rock-solid 1-cost card dorks. But we're not quite done yet. We're going to include 2 more creatures inside this build: Priest of Titania and Bloom Tender. Both of these creatures tap for a lot of mana, and that will help us cast our entire hand and shrink our hand size down to 0, then cast our extra turn spell and take an extra turn. They will also help us out ramping out Damia ASAP. But we're also going to include Gaia's Cradle, because we are playing some form of a creature elf package. Now let's glance at the ritual rocks. We have Grim Monolith, Mana Crypt, Sol Ring, and Voltai Key. Now you can, for example, tap Grim Monolith for 3 mana, use 1 of that mana, and activate Voltai Key to untap Grim Monolith, netting you 2 mana. Then we have Mox Diamond, Mox Opal, Mana Vault, and Chrome Mox. Now let's look at some more rocks. Here you have Talisman of Dominance, Lotus Petal, and Mind Stone. I highly recommend Mind Stone because you can sacrifice it to draw a card and cycle it away. And that is great when you have enough mana and you wanna draw your extra turn spells. Then we have Ancient Tomb, a land that taps for 2 mana. That is great and something you want inside your Damia deck. Then we have the 3 signets: Dimir Signet, Golgari Signet, and Simic Signet. And then of course Fellwar Stone. Also, don't forget that we have Utopia Sprawl, Carpet of Flowers, Dark Ritual. We could actually play a ritual to ramp this out faster. And of course, Wild Growth. Alright, we did it! We successfully nailed and finished the step 1, getting Damia into play ASAP. And I want to emphasize that your build should be able to produce Damia on turn 3 or turn 4 at the very best. If the build is putting Damia into play consistently turn 5, then you should start to reconstruct your build, trying to add in more rituals or stuff that will give you more mana fast. Alright, so here comes step 2. Pass turn and hope that Damia survives the turn cycle, because if she doesn't, she's going to go back to her command zone and cost 9 mana. And we've emptied our hand and we're only drawing 1 card per turn again, so we're in a very bad position. And this is one of the big reasons why Damia is actually more of a semi-competitive deck, and a big reason why I actually stopped playing her, because she's quite all in. And all it takes is like 1 spot removal, like 1 Swords of Plowshare, or 1 mana drain. However, if Damia successfully survives the turn cycle, in my experience, you pretty much win the game. Quite consistently. Because what you're gonna do is cast any whatsoever extra turn spell, and then empty your hand, take that extra turn, draw 7 more new cards. The consistency of drawing into an extra turn spell again is quite huge, and from this point you should be able to dig through your entire deck until the only 2 cards remaining is gonna be Nexus of Fate and Beacon of Tomorrow. I didn't actually have Nexus of Fate when I was playing this deck, I only had Beacon of Tomorrow, so I believe that the consistency of this deck has increased. Nexus of Fate is an upgrade for Damia. However, for the love of God, remember this, and this is actually a bit tricky. when you have only 2 remaining cards inside your deck, remember to have exactly 5 cards in your hand, or 6, because Damia is going to draw cards up to 7. So if your hand size is 0, you're going to draw 7 cards and deck yourself. It's either that or kill Damia. But when you reach this point, you have pretty much infinite turns, because you will be casting Nexus of Fate and Beacon of Tomorrow over and over and over. And your win con is pretty much a 4/4 Death Touch creature. And other dogs. During the turn run, when you're casting all your spells, you're gonna cast some removals and remove blockers. So you can sit there and attack with Damia and your Llanowar elves until your opponent dies. And remember, we have infinite turns, so one Llanowar elf could actually do it. Now let's talk about the deck in general, and let's begin with Necropotence. I highly recommend this black enchantment because it's a good alternative to our commander. If our commander is getting killed all the time, then Necropotence could be an alternative. It's also 3 mana instead of 7 mana, so you could begin with Necropotence using this black enchantment to draw cards and empty your hand and take extra turns, and then when your life is really low, then cast your commander and follow up with an extra turn spell. Now let's talk about interaction, something that is really important inside competitive Magic, and we did mention that we would be trying to win with a 1 Llanowar elf and just having infinite turns and attacking with that creature until everyone is dead. Cyclonic Rift could help out a lot here. We could overload the card to return all blockers to owner's hand and all other cards as well to their hands except lands, and then the way is clear and our Llanowar elf could sit there and attack forever. But we could also include Cabal Pit, and we should include Cabal Pit because it's a good land with an interaction. You could sacrifice the land when you have enough mana in play. If you have Threshold, and we're gonna have Threshold, 7 cards inside the graveyard is not that hard to achieve, and remove a blocker. I would also like to mention Mana Drain, something that is quite an out to include whenever you're playing blue, but in this case, in this deck, it's great, because if you counter something that costs 4 mana, that will give you 4 colorless mana on your turn, and that will help you get your commander in play. So in this case, Mana Drain is a great ritual. Noxious Revival is also a great interaction against something like Reanimate. If an opponent casts Reanimate and wanna attempt to reanimate something that is going to win the game, we don't want that to happen. So then use Noxious Revival as an interaction and put that target on top of their deck. It's better to have their card on top of the deck instead of in play. But we could also use Noxious Revival to target our own Time Warp when we are performing the turn run, and put Time Warp on top of our deck. And in our next turn, we will draw 7 cards again and recast Time Warp, so Noxious Revival becomes a successful extra turn spell. Scrabbing Claws and Heal Spellbomb are also good examples of good interaction inside this deck that you could use to perform your turn run. For example, they cost only 1 mana, which means they will be easy to cast and just throw out of your hand to shrink your hand size from 7 down to 0. And that is important because then we're gonna draw 7 more cards in our next turn. But also, these cards are cantrips, and that means that you could sacrifice them to draw a card. And that is good when you wanna draw cards and perform your turn combo. And this is pretty much how you need to think when you're building and constructing your Damia Turn deck. Try and find cards that will be good interaction against your opponents, but will function good inside your turn run, when you're trying to win with your turn combo. Now in the end, Damia Sage of Stone is a really consistent commander. The only problem is that all-in, that you're sacrificing so many resources and your hand size, really important, you're sacrificing your hand size to get this really expensive commander in play. But if you're successful in doing that and getting that turn cycle when she survives, the consistency of winning is really high. And another huge upside with this commander is that this is not a 2-card combo, it's not even a 1-card combo, it's a 0.5 card combo, because it doesn't matter what extra turn spell you cast. Whatever extra turn spell you cast, once you get your turn with Damia in play, you pretty much have the game. That means that her consistency is huge. And even if that extra turn spell is counterspelled, if Damia survives, just empty your hand, pass the turn and hope again that she survives, and if she does, you might draw into a new extra turn spell and redo the entire thing again. Make a secondary attempt. Now I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy playing with Damia's Sage of Stone, and I hope you enjoy drawing cards and taking extra turns. I actually think that this is a really fun commander. I had a lot of fun playing with it. I just think that the power level have been decreased quite a lot from other better alternatives we have these days. But she could grow in power if we have more rocks, more dorks. She could definitely grow stronger. I hope to see that in the future. Now thank you so much for watching and have a great day. I'll see you guys in the next video.